Mr. Robinson, and from New York. Did you have your paddle up for speaking? I think you're on. Is he on mute?
I did.
Okay,
I
fantastic.
did. Okay.
Take it away, Mr. Robinson.
So I'm here because I want to share, obviously, my thoughts and my personal experience. I know we've been beating up on police, but my personal experience has been with police. And then also, I'll make a second point about socioeconomic issues that kind of led to a lot of what's going on in society. First and foremost, people ask why we're angry. That was the part of the first initial panel. And it's because when we talk about why Black Lives Matter, a subset of the community or our citizens or Americans get upset. And then they hit us with the all lives matter. And then we have that whole conversation about who's more important. It's like oppression Olympics among people of color and so on and so forth. So my issue, I'm a Jamaican immigrant. I've been in America for 26 years. I grew up also in Galveston, Texas. I've lived in Central Texas. I now reside in Austin, Texas. And I've had my personal experience. We talked about what makes us afraid every day. For me personally, it is policing. It is being worried that I might get stopped and I might not make it out. And it's all based on my experience. So I want to read what happened to me. It's one of the most traumatic things that ever happened to me in my life. And it was very hard for me to talk about. Up until a few weeks ago, I talked about it with a group of my friends, and they really encouraged me to, say something. So I wanted to just share my thoughts. So I'll lead with why Black Lives Matter. I wanted to lead with that first and foremost. The last few days, weeks have been heartbreaking for me and everyone in the Black community. I spent a lot of time crying every single day because seeing the video of George Floyd losing his life, I can't explain why I was more emotional at this time around when it's happened to us every single day. Maybe it was the vile look on the officer's face as Mr. Floyd was taking his final breath. Maybe it was him pleading for his mama before his life expired. Maybe it was the complete disregard for his life and the collective apathy from the officers that didn't intervene and just watched. Maybe it was the fact that it was being recorded and knowing that if the person recording hadn't been there, this wouldn't have been news. Maybe it's because I feared and still fear for the person's life who was brave enough to stay and capture Mr. Floyd's final moments, knowing there could be repercussions. Maybe it's because I'm reminded of my own trauma that I endured 16 years ago when I was in the same situation after being profiled, beaten up, had guns drawn on me, had my head and face stepped on and pepper sprayed, thrown into the back of a police car, taken to jail, and sat with pepper spray in my eye for 4 hours, just because I fit the description of being a Black male while walking home from work to my home that's 3 blocks away. Maybe it was the fact that I had to do probation for 6 months. I never missed a day of school. I'd never gotten in trouble. I was a straight A student because no one believed me. And because if I weren't guilty, I wouldn't have run or been afraid. I was a straight A perfect attendance student who missed 0 days of middle school and high school. I never got in trouble. Haven't been in trouble since. I was lucky. So many people are not. I feel guilty for being fortunate to not have ended up the way so many of my people have. I hadn't been able to really voice my thoughts because I didn't want to make anything about me and diminish what is happening now. I wanted to say something because I've never discussed it with my closest friends who come from all walks of life. These things happen to your Black friends, and we carry that trauma and fear daily. What I want, from this panel, obviously, is to touch on what Winston just spoke about, is community. If you don't have a diverse background of people within your circle, you can never, I know that you can never understand what it's like to be that person and feel what they feel and empathize, but having a conversation, knowing who you surround yourself with and really diversifying yourself and being around different types of group and understanding their experiences can help get rid of some of these racial biases that we have towards each other. That's people within the minority community because we do it to ourselves, we do it to other marginalized groups, and then we also have our oppressors doing it to us. And we will never make any real change in our communities until we understand that it's not the oppression Olympics. We have to work together. We have to collectively try to lift each other up, and to really try to facilitate change. So that's my personal experience. That's what triggered me, and that's what kind of got me into just even sharing my story. Another thing I wanted to just make a point of, and then I'll cede my time, is a lot of people aren't aware of the things that have led up to what's happening today. We talk about slavery, we talk about Jim Crow, we talk about redlining, we talk about socioeconomic issues, and none of that's being taught in schools. Not to the extent where people know enough about it, at least. For the people who do go to college, they may get a little bit of that, but we aren't taught economics in the way that we should be, especially in marginalized communities. We don't have the resources that a lot of these other communities of the majority have. And is that because of redlining? Is that because of taxes? Is that because of just whatever, where you live? Maybe. But I feel like from the local level up until the macro level, those are the things that we all need to look at and address, because we know that there are disparities because of where we live and because of who's paying the most taxes. And then we know that we need to reform a lot of those things within the communities, and then also on a national scale. So I just wanted to bring up those two points, share my story, and thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you allowing me your platform to tell my story, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. I know and imagine that's not easy to share that story also, not only with your close friends, but publicly. So thank you for being willing to do that. And I must say, I love your shirt as well. Next, I want to go to, I know we got Mr. Simone back, but I want to go to, did we have, from my second panel, whom else had, if you could raise your paddles again. All right. How about we